Hey, Flowmies, it's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. So we're continuing our Best of series this month, and we're going to talk to three people who are just pillars in the industry. So first, we're going to talk with SteveO. Everyone knows about SteveO. If you're a window cleaner, you've seen his videos. He's going to talk about how he got started with that, just his whole attitude towards business, and how he's shifted from window cleaning to more sales. But he's got a really great story. You're definitely going to want to hear that. We're also going to speak with Sean Hill. He is one of the marketing directors for NiceJob. He gets to talk about his origin story, which is a really cool one as well. He got started in sports. But also he's going to share some information that's going to be really important for you with regards to getting reviews and how you can utilize those reviews to the best possible way. And then lastly, we're closing out with Josh Cronin Jersey from WCR. He's going to get to talk about his podcast. He's going to talk about all the different things that he's done from window cleaning to sales. And also marketing. He's got some really good advice on how you can help your business improve your marketing reach. So you definitely want to listen. So let's start with the interview that Feb Vandermeer did with SteveO.
So I wanted to ask a little bit more about you, how you got into window cleaning, and whether it came easy to you in the beginning. Because when I watch your videos, it seems like the skill is very intuitive to you. Did you start out that way?
No, not at all. No, so I actually started cleaning windows in college, and it was totally just a summer job just to have something to do, while I was in college and partying or whatever. And a local couple college guys started a business, and we just did homes. And literally what we would do to get these homes is we had door hangers, and we would go around and we look at the front of the house. We would just be like 150, 200. And we would just put it on the door handle, and people would call. They had a good amount of accounts, but we would just roll around four guys all day long. We never, ever replaced our squeegee rubber in 2 years. I don't ever remember replacing it. I had a little 8-inch scrubber. I had a little squirt bottle of glisten and water, and that's what I would use. And I never remember, trying to go too crazy. It was just simple spray, scrub, squeegee, detail, done. Never went over the top or anything. So I did that for a couple years in college, and then wound up graduating from Colorado State University in Fort Collins. Went out to California for a year. That's where I actually got to work at YouTube and kind of get like a taste of what YouTube was more than what I even knew at the time. And all it was a security job for YouTube. And it just happened. I was working at a restaurant, applied for a job on Craigslist, and it wanted to be with Google. And then I got placed at YouTube in San Bruno, California. Anyways, worked there for 6 months, decided I want to go back to Colorado. This is where I grew up. I just love the seasons, and came back, worked for a moving company for 2 weeks. And then I always knew when I was going to school at CSU that there was fish window cleaning around, because when I worked for the two guys, they always said, that's our competition. Like, that's the guys that get all the work in the area. So started working for fish, and that's when I had a guy train me who was, he was pretty rough around the edges, really just very straightforward. This is how you do it. This is the size of squeegee you use on this type of glass. If you do it any other way, you're going to be in trouble with me, And within a year, I was his manager. So he didn't like that. So just like you said, I took a liking to it really, really quick. And I just enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed jobs of being outside, working hard, being tired at the end of the day physically. In high school, me and my brothers always had a lawn mowing business over the summers. So I was just kind of used to that type of work. And when I started doing like the storefronts, and then started doing bigger commercial buildings, the water fed pole, it just kind of like brightened my interest of it. And the tool thing has always kind of been huge for me. I've always really been to window cleaning tools. I don't know why. And that's kind of the basis behind my channel, is like tools, techniques. I don't really go into like a lot of business stuff because there's so many other channels out there that do that. And I just find it boring sometimes to talk about. So yeah. So that's kind of how my window cleaning journey was. And then worked at Fish a couple years, and then started working with Jim at 2020 Window Cleaning. and then became an owner with him over 3 years ago. And it's been a really good ride.
That's pretty cool. I've noticed that, like, when I talk to people that have had a past with fish, they're always really technically solid window cleaners. And, you know, when you go to the Facebook forums, you hear a lot of fish bashing. And I never really quite understood why. I mean, aside from the fact they were, you know, your competitor or a competitor. Right. But, like, when we went to the IWCA convention and they had the speed contest, like, there's always a fish person up towards the top, always. Yeah. And so I've started to develop a respect for that organization over the last 2 or 3 years. They're doing something right.
Yeah. And I think partially what it is they, you know, their prices are sometimes lower, right? From what I've seen, what I was working there, I saw, and then, you know, come along and learn a lot more. Their prices are lower, but it's what they offer. It's their niche of the business is kind of to be at some of them kind of more of a beginner level, but it works. It's a very good system that works. And I learned a lot from there. Everything I learned of how to sell to storefronts was all from there. I had a great manager who was just like a sales master. His name was Dave. He was like 70 years old, had a Monopoly mustache. And I mean, the guy could just sell. And he taught me a lot of just how to go in, follow up. And then, the window cleaning, you learn how to be quick because the prices are a little lower and you work off commission. You know that, okay, I got to get through this job kind of quick. And so, yeah, you do kind of just learn, and you're always by yourself. And that's the other thing I think is a really good thing to learn when you first start out is being by yourself and figuring out that pace that you got to keep to make money in window cleaning, I think is a big thing. And I've always tried to keep with that. And that's why I think I've always tried to, you know, go after new tools and stuff is because of you could go so much further with other tools and make it better, make it more fun, make it quick. And that's what I try to do is kind of make it fun during the day and take it lightly, have fun with my customers, and it makes me happy.
So when you were working with the crew of 4 guys, did you know at that point that I mean, did you just start liking window cleaning right away, or was it when you started working for fish? And how long, you know, when did you realize, hey, this is pretty cool. I enjoy this trade, and, you know, it has these interesting gadgets that, you know, kind of keeps me interested, keeps me kind of playing in the field. Like, when did you know that you were going to really stick to it? Because you've been doing it for a while, and you've got a whole body of videos out there. I mean, it's.
I remember when I first started making videos, and I started making videos at Fish. And it was just, I started putting my phone down and just like recording them and would see what happened, you know. But like, I would say being at Fish, what happened was I worked there for 3 months and I broke my shoulder. So when I broke my shoulder really, really bad, had to have surgery, everything, I came back after 2 months and then I became the sales guy with the other sales manager. So that's where I learned the sales. And then what I actually had to do to get back into it and to make some money was I had to learn with my left arm. So then I went out, I would maybe do $200 worth of work a day, get paid $60 before taxes. And I would just clean with my left arm for 2 months. I would just pull and just try to work through it. But the movement of just keeping the shoulder going, even if I was working my left, I'd still try to scrub with my right. That was kind of like rehab. And so that kind of just all intertwined together. And I think that really connected me with window cleaning in a different way that maybe not a lot of people have. And then from there, it was like, okay, now I've got this like base of the sales thing. I'm learning the technique. Now I can use my left or my right hand, so I feel cool. And so why don't I just continue with it? And then when I left Fish and I started working though with the guy I work with now a lot, Jim, he taught me a lot. I mean, he's been a window cleaner for 15 years at that point, and he was just able to teach me so much more about all the sides of the business. He was very open about it, and it was just a really great experience and still is to this day.
That, I think, says a lot about window cleaning and you in general. Like, if you are going to go out and break your shoulder and still want to come back and force yourself to learn, with, the arm that you're not comfortable with, and then continue with the industry, that's some dedication.
And I would say at that point, I did kind of feel like, okay, what else am I going to do right now? Because my degree of college is in sociology and a focus on criminal justice. You can't do much with a bachelor's degree in sociology as far as getting like a great paying job. You really got to go for, your master's and your doctorate in it. So I was at a point where I felt kind of in a corner, like, okay, I have to just push through this. And if I don't push through this, well, what am I going to do? And I can't really go and get someone else to hire me with a, big shoulder brace and all this stuff. So it did kind of push me to have to do it, but it just, in that time, really got my passion going for it.
Yeah. I got my degree in natural sciences, and it's a similar thing where when you come out with your degree, you're very much expected to have experience after recently graduating. You really do need to get a master's or a doctorate in order to get a job that pays well enough for you to stay in the field. Right. And so I was doing some work in that field briefly with in a fire ant. I worked in a fire ant lab, believe it or not, and that was pretty cool. And I started working with the city of Dallas, and I was working at the water utilities as an environmental person, but it was more of like paperwork. It was like, do the environmental inspections. You're the guy that we have to keep on staff to help show that we're doing our environmental stuff. And so, I had to wait tables in the evenings and the weekends.
Oh man!
Just to get by.
Right.
And so my dad, you met my dad. He had all this time had a variety of different window cleaning businesses, and he kept telling me about how much money he was making and how fun it was to work outside. And I kept brushing him off. And then I just started tinkering with it, and the rest is history, really. I started tinkering with it, and that's when I started watching your videos and Luke's videos. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I remember when I bought my first kit, the yellow bucket with all those tools in there. Right. I bought my first kit, and I just started getting so excited about it. There was finally something that I had a little bit of control over.
Right.
And the rest is history. I just started pushing for it, and then I actually lost my environmental job. And so at some point it was like, this became my real job, and I had to make it work. And thankfully we were able to support our family almost right away. It was weird. Wow. It was just, Sarah was starting to explore the Nextdoor app, and she started to put the word out that, hey, we were this new business over in this neighborhood, and people started calling us. And I did have to wait tables still over the weekend, but it was more like, okay, now I'm going to just wait tables long enough until I can do this full time.
Right.
And so it was really exciting. There's just something about window cleaning that it's instant gratification. When you're completing each project, you can just kind of get it behind you, and you can feel good about it. And then the way the customers react when you do a great job, that's another part of it too.
Exactly. There is a high amount of customer satisfaction that makes you feel really good. And it is a quick satisfaction except for like construction cleans and stuff, like they can be agonizing. But that satisfaction of just making a house look so much better and making the people happy, especially when they're dirty windows and you can really brighten up the home. There is a really cool thing about that, and I totally agree with you.
So do you have a preference, residential or commercial, or?
Commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah.
What is it about commercial? What is it about? What would you like more? What do you like more about commercial?
Commercial and storefronts is what I like. I like those large commercial buildings where I don't really like the customer behind you and kind of hounding you. Not that it happens all the time, but I find commercials just so straightforward. It's like the glass, clean your solution off the frame, detail a little bit, move on. If there's something wrong on the glass, it's not a big thing. But residential, it's like, man, you got to go in, you got to take the screens out, You got to, check the tracks, see how dirty the tracks are. It always varies. You never know kind of what you're going to get with newer jobs with homes. There's always a blind that might break out of nowhere. There's always a hole in a screen they didn't see prior. And, there's so many more things that come up on residential than commercial. Now, in saying it, the gratification from residential is way higher.
Yeah.
But like storefronts, restaurants, just going through them, I just enjoy that. Those kind of days, I am just so relaxed. And from what I find, I actually do better making money on commercial and storefronts than I sometimes do in residential. We just do straight window cleaning, but like, you get put at a $700 home by yourself for a day. That's like, oh man. But then doing $700 of say, 20 storefronts, I love that. Just zip right through it, have a lot of fun, talk to a lot of different people, be in a lot of different places. That's my thing. For sure.
So you like to just get to work. You like to pour yourself into the physicality of it.
Yep.
And it's like, I see what you're saying. I mean, we tended towards residential mainly because of just having to support the family. And it's just, you get the higher tickets with the residential. And so we just leaned in that direction, and we never really developed a strong commercial route, which
Right.
I kind of still want to do. But I can see how one that gives you a great environment to test the tools that you get excited about. It's like people are sending you tools, and you get to try out all the different tricks.
Right.
But then you just kind of get to pour into it and just go, and that's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah. And, even like I love, like a weird thing I love doing is the inside of office buildings. I don't know why. It's just like, it's bliss. Usually when we go, it's early in the mornings or on a Saturday. No one's there. They're always big jobs, and we just move right through them, the three of us. And it's just, it's, and I think you get to have more fun on commercials. You get to have more like fun with, fanning on the pole and just doing, dumb stuff that you don't get to do at residential jobs. You got to ladder everything, wipe everything down, make sure everything looks very pristine. And sometimes it just gets overkill to me, I would say.
So one thing I've been curious about is how you got into, now I know you worked at YouTube as a security guard, but how did you get into making the videos? Because I guess I really haven't spent a whole lot of time with the videos, but you make really good videos, and I'm wondering like what kind of, you started off with your phone, but like when did you start going and trying out the GoPro, and how did you go about making some of these videos?
Yeah, it was all Luke's fault. It was 100% Luke's fault. And no, so what happened is I think I posted my first video back in 2012. And it was just a video of me using the Wagtail Combi on the outside of my window in my old apartment. And I just did it for fun. And then when I would get free time, I would just like put my phone and just make a video. One of my like most viewed videos is just simply that. I was waiting for a restaurant to open, and they weren't going to be open for 30 minutes. So I just filmed and just started messing around with fanning techniques on a window. And then I would say I kind of would be here and there as far as maybe upload every few months. Started talking to Luke, and then talked to Luke one day. I said, why does your video look so good? He said, well, I got a GoPro. It kind of just has like a wider view. And I said, okay. And I said, well, now I'll just forget about it. You're going to make this stuff all look good, and that'll be it. So then one day my dad had a GoPro. He won from work, and I said, hey, let me have your GoPro and just like use it for these videos for a little bit. So started making videos just here and there. And all I did was window cleaning montages. It was just window cleaning and music, and that was it. There wasn't really a whole lot of substance to it. It was just like, watch me clean windows, which I still do. And and then one day Luke kind of approached me about starting to do videos with Window Cleaning Resource. And that's when I kind of took the serious route on it. Way more of a serious route was that started pushing out a lot of content through their channel. And then so I said, okay, well, let me just kind of go with it and just see what happens here. So then I started pushing out more videos on my channel and kind of trying to just grow my channel along with, putting videos with them, with Jordy, and Tradman was doing it at the same time. So it just kind of started turning, and you could just see the wheels turning. And then it just progressed into, okay, what cameras can I get now that'll make it look better? What attachments can I get? And there were people like the window cleaning Palm from like Australia. He was really, really good at filming and, had great videos. So you learn a lot from the different videos and you start progressing with that, kind of putting them in the videos. And then the idea of, okay, products are starting to get sent. Content's kind of easy when products are sent. You can review the products and just kind of go from there. And as that started to happen more and more and more, the channel just progressed and I just kind of kept with it. And now what it has turned into is now I'm, doing sales as WCR. It's, I work with Jobber with it. It has turned into, what I would say, my overall goal is to have many revenue streams in, X amount of years. And that's what it's turned into, is it has turned into a revenue stream that's been very, very good. And it's encouraging because it's a lot of work put into these videos, and not all of them, but as far as just even the idea of filming a video and not really putting in a lot of B-roll, sometimes I'll film that video 15 to 20 times and it may not look like that, but it's just, I don't really like too heavy of editing when talking, but you film a video over and over again, like water-fed pole videos, and you want it to sound good. You want it to sound professional. And that's something I've tried to work in more, I would say the past year and a half, is just a more professional look. And so I got a newer camera last year that's like a mirrorless camera. It just has really good detail to it. So that was something I brought new to it. At one point, I bought a drone, tried to work that into it. That's not a good idea around customers' houses, and that's just not a good plan. So I took that out pretty quick, forgot that. But it was really fun in that when we started doing videos for Window Clean Resource, there was like a good team that we were all doing videos and pushing out stuff all the time. And that really created a group in which, when we first met at the convention a couple of years ago, just started like this bigger thing. And it kind of meant more. And it's just grown and grown and grown. And it's been a lot of fun.
So I was really happy that you agreed to come on with us. I have a bunch of questions for you, but before we get into the importance of online reputation, I did want to just talk a little bit with you because you don't have a background with the service industry. I had heard podcasts before where you had a background in sports, right? With the Philadelphia Flyers. You worked with that organization?
Yeah, so the Philadelphia Flyers for about a decade. I would say a decade officially. It was a little bit of time before that. I worked for USA Sevens Rugby. I worked in World Team Tennis, minor league baseball. Worked in a lot of sports. And my main job there, a lot of times it fall in the realm of either game entertainment or game presentation. And what those departments are the things that you see that happen at the games, your T-shirt tosses, your mascots,
right.
of that nature. But it also were extended, and I think probably a great way to help it connect to people's minds was, you make marketing strategy, you make marketing efforts, then you execute the marketing. I was always the execution of the marketing. And so the way I described what I did and what my passion is and what I've brought to NiceJob is, you have people that might be passionate about something, and there's always another level. So in sports, you build fan bases, and at NiceJob, we feel you can do the same. But ultimately, it's about, the human connection coming together, because some people will watch sports because they want their team to win. But other people do it because it's a night out. Other people do it to bond with family members.
Right.
Other people do it, there is a thrill of competition, things like that. So there's so many different entities. There's so many diverse things. And what sports does really, really well is they market in a linear sense. And in a non-linear sense. And what I mean by that is they're the one industry, take like an NFL team, that can make money in last place. So the product cannot be good, and they find ways to make money, and they find ways to actually grow. So it's not just about, making money just to make money. So it's the same thing as, to put it simply, when you're a last place team, you sell experiences, you give away bobbleheads, you talk about, what it's like to come to a game and why it's fun for the family and all the other stuff. But when you're in first place, you talk about, we're going for a championship. Look at these elite athletes. Look at them at the peak of their game. This marvel, this spectacle. So on both ends of the spectrum, they have something to market. And so you might say, well, how does this work for a home service business, things like that? Because realistically, your product has to be good, right? But what makes your product good differs. Someone could love you because you're on time. Someone could love you because you don't leave a mess and you clean up very well. Someone could love you because you're very responsive. They feel like they can call you or text you anytime, day or night. Well, how do you find within that one target audience those different segments? And that's what sports does really well. They identify the front runners. They identify the people that only care about the roster versus the people that care about the legacy versus the people that'll just come if you give them $1 hot dog and something to take home. And they find ways to do it. They diversify their marketing. So for me, my background coming from sports was, how do you make someone more passionate about things? But really it was coming down to the why, right? The find your why. And so with NiceJob, the reason I ended up in this company in particular, which I want to make sure to mention, was because of the values of this company. It was the culture change, the value fit that I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, when I first joined, the software I wasn't familiar with. Not that it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. I look up reviews.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing that they sold me on, is, look, that we're a company that cares about business owners. We will do things like give away things for free if it's going to help, and instead of trying to put a price tag on it just because it might help us on this side. That's something we're still true to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But then ultimately, they asked me as community manager at the time, now community director, to grow us giving out education, to grow us connecting and doing things within the community, which I know is certainly matches, you yourself, Gabe, but also, the podcast and the movement you guys are doing here. So that's a little bit of my background. I'm non-traditional. Whenever I make analogies about the actual business itself, I say squeegee when I mean wand. Like I get a lot of that stuff kind of wrong. The one part that I know I can definitely connect with is when it comes about, how are you making those connections that'll either help you from the sales process, the fan development process, or the repetitive customer process, or the very least, just being a pillar in your community, which is ultimately that's what good businesses are.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I don't think I really put two and two together until you said that, but NiceJob definitely is. They have fans and in the community, because I'm on the NiceJob Facebook group. You can definitely, it has that feel of like we're rooting for the company, and that's one of the reasons why I promote it, because one, it works. So like you said, all the different reasons why you would use it. But two, because of the support that I give it. It was like I always felt like NiceJob was invested in my success, and so many times you go to these conferences or conventions or expos, and you're just greeted with a ton of services, software, and so much of it is, okay, here's the software, use it, it's going to work great for you, see you later, we're done. And I just have always felt like NiceJob, like you said, there was a community feel to it, which is how I run my business. Because I'm not interested in just how many windows can I clean. I'm interested in how many relationships can I form with people that will be not only just happy that we clean for them, but feel like, oh, this is the only company I want to use. I had such a great experience. They're rooting for us. They're rooting for our success. And a lot of our longtime customers are like that. So that's always been kind of the goal for our business, is to get those fans. And I think that's what also attracted me to NiceJob, is because it's that same kind of mentality of, hey, we're all in this together. We're rooting. We're trying to accomplish a certain thing, or to see success in this area, and we all like feel together on it. So that was a home run if we're going to use sports metaphors.
All about sports analogies. I get it all the time. And I will say, when we talk about fans, sometimes when you say the word fans, people think of like, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to paint my face for my person cleaning my windows.
Mm-hmm.
But fandom does display in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You might think of that's the first image with your hand. You think the foam finger, the painted face. But I like to think of staying within that sports realm as like when someone goes and talks smack on your team on Reddit or on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people that come and defend that just repeat the insult something back. Like, no, actually your team is bad. But the fans that I think translate from the sports realm to home services, things like that, are the people that go like, well, you know what? You know why I like this team? Because of the style that they play. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, you talk about word of mouth marketing and things like that, is the fans you develop might go like, hey, you know what? If you're looking for someone, I like these guys for this particular reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a personal sort of connection. And through reviews, the online processes, and you very well know, is we think that helps, but we made the shift from reputation management, which is kind of the old field, to reputation marketing, because everything you're going to gather through your reviews and stuff should help you, not just from you put that copy in, you're going to get better click-through rates, but it should help you with, this is the voice of your customer. This is what's important to your target audience. Make sure you're building within the systems within your business these core concepts. So, finding out that everyone in your reviews is talking about you being, on time and punctual. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you make sure that, okay, well, on our checklist, we want to date things so that there's no way we can be late. right? Even if there's an accident on the road and the car's on fire and all the other stuff, a process is in place where no customer is ever going to be looking at their watch going, where are they? So whether it's communication, whether it's, billing in time, but you learn that from the feedback, you learn that from the reviews. And so again, the community thing also comes from we're confident. And I don't mind saying that. We believe in our software. We develop it to be the best. We develop it to be effective. But in the end, we want to help you as a member of our community. And if we're the right solution for you, we'd be proud to give you that leg up. But if we're not the right solution for you, or you need a little bit more education before a software like ours, a little bit more structure for a software like ours might work, we're fine waiting, because ultimately we kind of do believe we're the best thing. And we'd rather help you with what you need help now than to try to sell you a software and have you wedge it into something. So that's why we lead with community first. And we're confident in that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I appreciate about NiceJob as well, and especially in the Facebook group, is it's about an education on how to use the software. So it's an acknowledgement that the software is a tool, but if I buy the fanciest drill, I don't have a background in carpentry or in any type of construction. So I mean, it's going to be wasted in my possession, because I can use it. But am I going to use it to its full capacity? Probably not, just because I don't have that education. So just to kind of give everyone an idea. So I signed up for it in 2018. I had it for a good 4 or 5 months. I really didn't use it to its full capacity. And then in January, I made the determination, okay, I have this product, I'm paying for it, I need to use it. And so in January, I just kind of did a crash course. I got a lot of help from the Facebook community, got it in order. So in February of 2019, I had 14 Google reviews, and now I'm over 300 in 2 years. So that's the difference, because you consider, I went about 3 or 4 years with only to get 14 reviews. And now in 2 years, I've got that much. And now I'm way ahead of any of my competitors in my area on online reviews. But that was because I finally learned how to use the program. When I didn't.
You still do the work though, right? I mean, that's the one thing we're very clear on, is we help. The tagline, we kind of put on it is, we help great companies get the reputation they deserve. And it's purposeful, because if you are a bad company, you have poor customer journey, poor customer experience, you don't have passion in your work, you're fine with cutting corners and things like that, we're not going to be able to make you seem like you're a great company. But what we can do is, any good feedback that you're still getting, even with all your flaws, we'll give you the ability to use that. But then also, we're giving you all the data you need to learn and be better. And that's why, I appreciate the kind words for us, but I want you to have around, like, you get to that level, man, that's you building a business that's worthy of that level. And I'm glad we made it easy for your clients to leave reviews, but it goes back to the work gets done. That's the success. We're just helping you build that reputation to capitalize on all the hard work you're doing.
Well, and that's what we want to, because that idea of education in order to take information and apply it to your business is what Into the Flow is about, right? It's about making sure that we as business owners aren't just kind of going through the same steps, just kind of doing the thing that we always do, and we're always stuck in the same rut. It's about, okay, here's some valuable information or a valuable tool. How can I now apply it to my specific situation and make it work, and then see the results in my business? So that's why I'm so excited to have you on, because we do have some questions, and I think you're going to give us some good insight. The first question, and I'm gonna ask the question, then just kind of preface it by the reason why I'm asking. So the first one is, why should small business owners pay attention to online reviews? And the reason why I'm asking this is, if you go to any window cleaning group, there is a constant argument between, online, you don't need no online reviews. Oh, why? It's a waste of time. You don't need it. It's not a big deal. If people who just focus on getting online reviews are wasting their time, or it's like almost like a false statement of your quality if you're presenting online reviews. So from someone who is, thrust into the midst of online reputation management, why would you say that it's important to pay attention to them?
There's multiple ways. I don't say multiple ways I could take this answer, but multiple ways I could lay out this answer. But one, I think in this one in particular, they love to start off with, because you brought up the example of people going like, oh, well, it's a waste of time. You cannot stop someone from leaving a review. And what I mean by that is if they go and they leave a review and they haven't and you haven't serviced them, they're not on your client list, things like that. There's steps. It's not always foolproof, but to go through Google, try to get removed, you can get a report it. Like you can respond to that review and say, this is fake, right? But you can't stop that person from doing that first step. You also can't stop someone from going to their cousin, to their brother, to their sister, to everyone and go, oh, don't use those guys. Oh, they're terrible. And why are they terrible? I never had them service them, but they cut me off in traffic once. I saw their van cut me off in traffic. Right? You can't stop that person from doing it. However, what you can do is you can invite the people that want to talk great about you to say something about you. You can invite the people that you don't know they're going to say great things about you, but they're going to give you an honest feedback. You can give them a pathway. NiceJob software in particular, but anything that kind of helps collect reviews, the goal of that software should be to make it easy for the client to leave the review. You brought the term reputation management. And it's going to sound like semantics, but I'll explain is we've made the pivot to reputation marketing for the sole purpose of reputation management. Started seeing some bad practices like review gating, which is you ask someone to leave a review via email. Hey, give us a score of 1 to 10. If it's 7 and below, it goes right to an inbox, doesn't see the light of day. It goes 8 or above, it goes to Google My Business, right? And just by that alone, it's against Google's policy. You can get your Google My Business shut down, and get your business in a whole bunch of online trouble.
Yes.
But also what it did is imagine leaving that review, filing that complaint, right? So you score a 4 and you say that, and then you go and you don't actually see your review anywhere. Now you just kind of made that person kind of a little bit more, and you kind of proved that that's not that, or that's what you are. And it goes back to the main thing of the reason pay attention to online reviews is you don't own your reputation. You really don't. You own your brand. And what reputation marketing is taking brand marketing, taking reputation management, the good parts of it, the core parts of it, and combining them. Because your brand is, you're going to go out there and it could be a color scheme, but mostly it is, what you're doing, right? Who we are, how we do it, why we want to do it this way, things like that. But, and then, reputation marketing is reputation management is getting this review. But because you're building your brand in that sense, and you're talking about this is our identity, this is our values, what your reputation is what your customers think your company stands for, right? And how good of a job that you're actually portraying that. And because you don't own that, that's why you should pay attention to it, because you can think one thing, but if people think another, that becomes not necessarily the truth. That becomes the narrative. And now not are you selling against competitors, you're selling against that narrative. So just by opening up and just monitoring, just paying attention, if you're like, you know what, that I don't want to beg for reviews. I hate that phrase when people say, I don't beg for reviews. At the very least, you should be monitoring your numbers and taking a look, because responding to bad reviews is incredibly important. Thanking people for good reviews, adding more context to good reviews. Gabe, as with the NiceJob, you had photos, like someone that just puts 5 stars, no context. If you then add a photo and are able to relate it to that job, you just gave it context on your own.
Yes.
So paying attention to online reviews is important, because that's the narrative that's out there. And if you go back to grade school, you can think that your shoes look cool, but if all the students are talking behind your back, guess what? They're not cool shoes, man. Sorry to say that. That's not saying I promote that sort of behavior, but it's just that. So paying attention to your online reputation and at least having your finger on the pulse of that will let you also know where perhaps you can make changes in your business to correct a false narrative. Yeah.
I think a concept that especially service industry, small business owners can understand is, we're about upselling a lot of times, especially when we're slow. If we have a customer, we've got to try to get as much much jobs out of that customer, because we're in their presence. So we may offer, hey, how about we clean your fans? How about we, whatever, we can add a bunch of different things to try and turn that $300 job into maybe a $500 job, if we need that. So with the reputation management or marketing, if we have a review, we can use that review instead of it just sitting there on the shelf, so to speak. We can enhance that review, like you said, either by adding pictures. What we do is we promote, like we have, of course, a testimonial Tuesday. So we'll put that review as a highlight on Tuesdays. We also do what we call a GSWC Google batch. So I'll just take a screenshot of the Google page, and it just usually has about 7 reviews, and they're all 5-star. We'll put little, GIFs on there, and then we promote that every so often as we get, so like about every 7 reviews, we'll post that on there. And again, it's just a way of maximizing those reviews for the benefit of the business, so that people who perhaps are not looking for window cleaning would not go to my Google page or my Yelp page or my Facebook page to look for reviews. Now they see the reviews. So it's planting those seeds in the future of, oh, I got to have the windows clean. Oh yeah, there's that guy with a ton of reviews. I'm going to go ahead and give him a call. And that's the mentality of our marketing is, like you said, just trying to get ahead of that, maximizing the value of those reviews that we have, instead of just being satisfied with them sitting on a list that maybe nobody sees, or a few
And
people see.
it also can combine with other content that you're doing. Like you mentioned Instagram, and you'll be happy to know that we're very close to the nice job Instagram integration there. So
that's right. I think they called me on that. Yeah.
On IG there. Hopefully this will be a great tool for you. But for example, if you're on Instagram, we use that as the main example here. You might have a business, window cleaning, power washing, stuff like that, where you can make those satisfying videos that the internet absolutely loves. So maybe on Instagram, you're making a bunch of reels, right? That are the before and afters, the satisfying videos. Maybe you're showing off your team in other ways. And someone goes, oh man, I'm constantly seeing, gays, I'm constantly seeing them on my reels feed. Then they click through and now they're looking at your Instagram profile, right? Well, what are they seeing there? They probably could be seeing all your reels, but they might be looking for something they kind of haven't seen. And that's where you really can diversify it. So maybe someone sees a funny video you do on YouTube. Maybe someone sees, obviously we're all here community-based. Maybe someone saw you in a local parade, or maybe someone saw you helping out at the high school doing something. They just saw you in your church, you're doing something, you're just doing some social impact there. Well, then they go look for you. What are they seeing? And so they, like you said, they may not be looking for window cleaning at that moment. They are probably trying to figure out who you are, and seeing reviews, seeing people's sentiments, that builds a greater picture probably beyond your services. So when they do think of window cleaning, they go right to you. And especially because there's a lot in some services industries, there's not knowledgeable. Like, I'll be honest with you, I've learned a little bit through my time now, but if you would have asked me on day one of NiceJob, like, what should you look for in a window cleaner? I'd be like, water? I don't know. Like, you got me there. So if I'm coming to look, perhaps all your, the technical stuff and the things you're talking about on your website, the things you might be showing, maybe that's not landing with me. But seeing someone that goes like, oh man, when they clean my windows, I get a better, view of my kids playing in the lawn, and that goes, hey, I don't maybe know how they got the window that clean, but I do know it's important for me to look out my window because I had a great view. Like, I don't have kids yet, but that's gonna be important. But I do have a dog. I want to make sure he's not getting into something. So that resonated with me more so than the type of thing that you're using or the process. That's what connected. So yeah, you can diversify all your other content, marketing wise and just personality wise, with and then having people land on something that those testimonials to really to really connect with you. I don't even say to sell more. It's just to connect. That's really what the goal should be.
Exactly.
So on that note, I did want to ask a little bit more about you and how you got into the industry. You have a podcast that talks about who you are, and you kind of go over your history briefly. But I was wondering, like, how you got involved in the industry. What were you doing before, and how you gravitated to windows?
Yeah, so I started my window cleaning business about 15, 16 years ago now, something like that. And I got into it kind of as a side hustle, like anybody. And I had a full-time job at the time. And all of a sudden I did a home show, and the home show did really well for us. So it was like, well, I could keep going to my job that I'm making X amount, or, my real job is getting in the way of my hustle. And that's kind of how I decided to take the leap into window cleaning.
So what were you doing before? And who introduced you to the side hustle? Like, how did it occur to you to take on the side hustle?
Yeah, so I was actually in banking. I worked for a credit union. I was a senior collector there for maybe 6 years or so, something like that. And I had had time off from my work, and my brother had owned a painting company at the time. So I said, hey, I'm bored. I got time off. We didn't do what we thought we were going to do on the vacation. Ended up, my wife had to work. And I said to him, I'm like, hey, let me just hang out with you guys during the day. So we happened to be on a job, and the guy handed him a bottle of Windex and a squeegee and was like, hey, can you clean the windows when you guys are done painting? And he gave it to me because I was like, just there to hang out basically. And I liked it. I got done with it. I'm like, man, that was kind of fun, right? And did some research on it. Back in the day, there wasn't as much research, but did some research and was like, oh, you can actually make a living doing this. So that's kind of how I started it as a side hustle. And I always like to have something on the side. Just it's fun for my ADD to kind of do lots of different things. And that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah. I think I don't even know what my side hustle would be from window cleaning. I mean, it has enough intricacies and variations and offshoots that I feel like it tends to just capture my full attention. I was in the environmental field before, and I was working for the city of Dallas. I was working in the water utilities as an environmental guy, safety and environmental. And then I was also waiting tables, and I just like, you know what, I gotta find a better way to support the family. So I was talking to my dad, and he's been a window cleaning. He's had multiple window cleaning businesses, and he kept telling me about how great it was and the pay, and so I just decided to experiment with it. And at some point I ended up getting fired from my day job, not from the city job, but from a private company that I ended up with. And my side hustle became the main hustle. And then the restaurant job was like something that I had to use to kind of help make that transition. But then ultimately it's now the full-time hustle. So.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like life in general is kind of like riding a bike on the sand. Like you can kind of see where you want to go, but you don't know how you're going to get there. Like life kind of dictates where you're going. And same thing with you. Like if you wouldn't have gotten fired, then would you have really taken the jump? If you, didn't have the security of the other job, would you have still gotten into window cleaning? It's pretty cool how everything starts. I love hearing like starting stories like that.
Yeah. And I remember being so scared because I was so excited about working for this private company. Some municipal jobs aren't like well known for their pay. And so I was trying to support a family of 5, 3 kids and my wife and myself. And I was just getting tired of doing the day job and the weekend job at the restaurant. And I was like, what can I do to, take back my time? I wasn't spending holidays with the kids. I wasn't spending weekends with the kids. And so when I got fired, I was so scared, but fortunately I was already dabbling with window cleaning. And I remember making that call to Sarah, and I was like, I think we can do this. But it was a very scary phone call. And I just couldn't believe that I was in this situation. And then, she was really quick on the pivot. She was like, well, I've heard about this Nextdoor app. Let's go ahead and get the name out there. And I think we were one of the first, to start messing with Nextdoor, at least in our area. And that really kind of one job led to another job. And it was like, wow. I remember being excited and very nervous at the same time. And you've got 2 kids also. You said you have a 14-year-old, right? And an 11-year-old, 2 girls.
Yes.
So I've got a 14-year-old as well, and I have a 12-year-old. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, like anybody who's like, what should I do? How do I get into business? Like the hardest step you'll ever do is taking the first step. And like having a spouse that's like, okay, we're doing this, like that's huge too, because a lot of people get held down by that. They get held down by the lack of security, so it's scary, but yet it's like it's a necessity to kind of make it to the next step. It's the hardest part of business.
Well, and you liked it enough to stick with it for 15 years before you sold it, 15, 16 years. And I was listening to your episode about how you sold it, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind about how that works. But I was just wondering, like, sales. You started this podcast and you work with WCR. How did that relationship come about, and how did you get into sales, going from banking to window cleaning to sales? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So being in window cleaning for so long, I've done other little kind of shows, and I always like helping people. Like that's fun to me. Well, when I moved, and that's the reason I sold my company, I wanted to move south where it's not so cold as it is in Wisconsin. But when we moved south, I was still kind of consulting for my old business. And I had a 4-year consulting kind of deal worked out with them. So I'm like, oh, well, I'll move and then I'll just start like my own window cleaning, pressure washing here and just do a few jobs just to kind of subsidize that. And I've known Chris and Alex from Window Cleaning Resource forever, it feels like. And they were like, well, why don't you do some live chat at night? I'm like, that's fine. You know, that'll at least give me another form of income, right? You know, the wealthiest of all people have multiple forms of income. I'm like, I'll do that for a while. And it ended up being that I had too many hats on. I was trying to do too many things. So it was like, you know, all day people would call and talk to me at night, and then they'd want to do something during the day, and I'd be out with a pressure washer, and then I'd have to call them back. And finally I was talking with Chris. He's like, just do this full time. Like, just go get rid of that, take away some of your hats. And then as soon as your consulting is gone, you know, you'll have even more. And that's kind of how I got into it. So I get to still help people, right? Same thing as you do when you're talking to somebody in person. But I get to start new businesses again on somebody else's, you know, hey, this is what I think would be awesome, you know. And most importantly, I still stay in the industry that I feel like I know and have the best kind of knowledge on. So it's really a nice kind of pairing for that.
When I was listening to your episode, I was thinking like how, because this is the question that we're struggling with right now, is how did you, so you start off as a single, you know, you were out there in the field by yourself initially. How did you grow? Like, what were the steps that you took to get to a couple of technicians? And did you kind of, you know, flounder a little bit? I feel like I'm floundering and messing up the whole process, but you know, having employees has been probably the most stressful aspect of window cleaning. Like I'm most at peace when I'm on a job by myself. I don't have to worry about someone else on a ladder or breaking something in the client's home. You know, what are how did you grow from that one-man crew to where you got to sell it?
Well, truth be told, I did one job by myself before my brother's friend, who I was saying that I had helped them in their painting. They had a business that was just enough for beer money kind of thing. And his partner that was in the business, his name was TJ. And I called him one day and was like, dude, are you doing anything? Do you want to come make some other money doing this, you know? And it was just for boredom. Like, I was opposite of you, where you said you like to just kind of like, you know, zone out, get your work done, not talk. I'm a big talker, so I just wanted somebody there that made the days not so boring. So he kind of came in and helped, but was never a real employee. Like, it was so early on that we were like, we'll go play Wii or something, you know, instead of work today, and we'll go do this. So it kind of was a slow progression. But if you truly want to grow with employees, when you get to the point where you have more actual work to do than you are comfortable with. So I always said the 20 rule. So in a week, you should be doing 20 hours of window cleaning, and the other 20 can go to marketing. If you start getting over that by yourself and you know you're growing, then you can bring on somebody else. You start getting 30 hours, 2 people, that 30 hours will be 15 hours. So it's hard to get an employee then at 15 hours. So then you have to wait to 40 hours. Once you have 40 hours with one person, break it into 2. Now it's 20 per person. So it's kind of, as you start getting more work than you have time to do with doing everything else, that's when you start bringing employees on. And they will always be the hardest part, because now you have somebody else's life and livelihood in your hands. You know, you talk about kids, like if, you know, COVID happened and the biggest people that were hit with all this was people that had employees, because then they say, okay, I have 5 families, right? I have 15 kids, I have, you know, all this stuff that is under your umbrella, and now all of a sudden I can't provide work for those people. Like, that's the hardest part, is people, you see a lot of it too in guys that are running multiple crews and things, that they're just like, I just need the work for my guys. Like, I stopped taking a paycheck so they could have hours. Like, all of a sudden the burden now is on your shoulders to make sure that those guys are taken care of, where the stigma is kind of like, oh, you're a boss, you don't care. But the reality is, like, you are the reason that they bought a new car. You're the reason that they feed their family. You're the reason that, and all that kind of comes back onto you. So now all of a sudden, instead of just having, oh, it'll be great to have somebody do the work, all of a sudden now you just took on this burden of a whole nother human or family onto your shoulders. So it's always the toughest. And it's always the one where you feel like you're flubbing, because if there's 40 hours of work, you can't produce 50 hours, right? You can't do more than you have. And it's always tough. It's always a juggle, basically.
So did you have aside from the banking, did you have a business background before you started growing the window cleaning business, or did it just come intuitively to you, just in terms of, this just makes sense, this is the math, start with 20 and 20 and then 30 and 30, whatever, did you have a business background?
I was always the kid who had something. Like I had a bike shop when I was little. I sold candy out of my backpack at school. Like I was always that one that always kind of had something going on. So business has always interested me. So going into business, it was like the most fun adventure ever. Like I was that nerd who was more excited to get business cards that had my name on it. Like, I wanted to be that guy who had, a stationery, or that I had a program that did my, accounting and all that stuff. That's all been very, very interesting to me. So I feel like in business, and this, anybody watching or listening can be mad all they want, but in business, you can sell or produce anything, but business is still the same, right? Yes, there's nuances of like, you have to know how to specifically sell cleaning services or a t-shirt if you're selling a t-shirt, right? But the structure of business, right? Like how to structure business, how to delegate, how to kind of run that side, I think is no matter what industry you're in. So it was pretty smooth for me. But I remember early on having, I think it was like my first or second year where, actually it was maybe third year, it doesn't matter, but we got hit with taxes really, really hard. Like I went to my accountant, who we were always the slowest. We were always right up to the edge, and she was a friend of my father. So that's how we got it, of course. So I couldn't say anything, but she's, wow, you guys did really good this year. I said, oh, thank you. She's like, oh yeah, so here's your tax bill. This is due tomorrow, or it was due. This was a Thursday and it was due that Monday. And it was like 4 days I had to come up with all this money. And I'm like, oh man, like, so there's always been times where you struggle, and all of a sudden I had no money to pay that tax bill and to keep my employees and do this. There's been a lot of struggles, but I feel like in business, like as scary and how horrible we say it is, that's part of the fun of it. Like look back when you started your business and look at all those things. Like, oh, do you remember like the first time you got a check from a commercial or a route job, or like the first time a homeowner paid you or tipped you, or like all those little things where, that kind of sucks at the time, but it's all part of the experience.
Yeah. So you clearly that you were handed that bill, and were you totally freaked out? I mean, how did you talk yourself through paying that off and still holding on to your business? I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. That's like, that could be daunting for, a lot of people. They're like, I'm out, I'm done, I'm throwing in the towel.
Well, here's where you kind of have a benefit, is you have an instant partner, right? You have your wife who, and I don't know, I'm putting words in your mouth. You probably have everything you know about your business. She knows about your business. And there's kind of that thing. With my wife, it's opposite, where she is great at a lot of things. And she's a nurse. She's been in labor and delivery forever. And, now she does, chemo stuff. So she's able to do the pressure. She's able to do the on the spot. Here's the thing. Hey, this person, they need blood. They're going south, right? She can do all that. But when it comes to worrying about things that are out of her control, it's not her forte. So when something like that comes up, I kept everything from her. I didn't tell her the negatives of anything because it was my burden, not hers. So I didn't need the whole family being sad about this. So that weekend, I remember like trying to just figure out what's going on. I was researching like what happens if you don't pay it right away. How do you do this? How do you do that? And, in business, there's always a headache that is going to be in front of you that seems more daunting than it really is. And that particular issue, we didn't have the money, but we talked to the IRS and they did a payment plan for us. And then we had to talk to the state, but the state wouldn't do something like that. And when everything was said and done, it wasn't the perfect situation, but it was here's a problem, let's handle it kind of thing. And just keeping your head up to everything else. Remember, in Wisconsin, when you come out of winter, you're broke. Like I don't do windows December, January, February, most of March. I don't do any window cleaning because it's just too cold. There's so much snow. It's too cold. So going into April, and needing a payment, it was like, you already got dirt in your bank account trying to make things happen. So it was a learning experience. And from that, I've changed everything in how we spend and save and plan and, disaster forecast and things like that, all because of that one thing. So it ended up being a positive.
I feel like, if we went back and looked at like A Christmas Carol and we looked at Scrooge's story, I feel like there's like a backstory. There's like, okay, there's probably a good reason why Scrooge was really stressed out and only focused on money.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about like, someone should do a movie about that and work-life balance, and how do you balance the two? Because it's like, you're always carrying your family life into the field. I mean, you're always getting phone calls from family, from your wife and kids, and it's hard to leave work outside when you come home. And it's that's, I feel like what I'm challenged with right now is figuring out how to just turn that switch off and establish a boundary. It's like, okay, we're getting a phone call from a client at 6:00 p.m. and I'm about to sit down at the dinner table, whereas in the past I would scramble for the phone and try to, get that business. Now I'm like, well, I really need to make this family time sacred. That's probably one of the bigger challenges we're facing now. And then on top of that, just, finding good people good technicians, and then a training program is what we're like trying to build at the moment. And that's not easy at all. You mainly did commercial work, right? Your business was mainly commercial, or did you do residential as well?
We did mainly residential. We were about that 70-30 split, pretty close to.
How did you get into that? Was it just word of mouth, or did you actually start with marketing? You had an official marketing approach and sales approach. How did you go about that?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of diversifying like jobs, right? So we did route, we did commercial, and we did residential. I didn't specifically go to either of them unless I was marketing to one or the other. So you can still do all of those services. And we had eventually different crews that would do different things, so they didn't really cross over too much. But focusing on where your money is coming from is usually best, right? If you're not going to step over pennies to make, or step over dollars to make pennies, you're going to find where everything is. And houses for us were really our big boost, a big chunk. So we focused a lot on that. We focused on getting referrals. We focused on that side of it. But then because we were in Wisconsin, our only window cleaning that wasn't a house was, January, like I said, that December, January, February, March, that was route. We did all of our big commercial projects in March if the water wasn't freezing still. So, doing that, you kind of fluff different areas. It's like, working out. If you don't like your shoulders, you're going to work that area a little bit harder than you do the other stuff. It's kind of that same concept where, as we felt like, hey, we really want to boost up route. Route at one point, we wanted to double route, and then we wanted to double that double, and we wanted to just blow route out because it was just the frequency was there. So we took all of that advertising, all of our time, all of our ads and everything, and then focused it on route at that particular time because, everything else kind of still running, and I wanted everything to grow, but I really wanted that to grow. So kind of focusing your marketing efforts really kind of helps you grow one way or the other.
All right, Flowmies. Well, that's it for our best of edition this week. We're going to have another one next week, and then we'll get back to our interviews. We look forward to getting to that. But you guys, thanks so much for listening. Hope you have a great week, and we will talk to you later. Flow on.